Welcome to clickmyproject.com. The project title is A Mechanism Design Approach to Resource Procurement in Cloud Computing. The main objective is to provide dynamic pricing while automates the selection of an appropriate cloud vendor. Then going to explain abstract. In this paper, we are considering cloud resource procurement approach, which not only automates the selection of an appropriate cloud vendor but also implements the dynamic pricing. In the proposed system, we are considering a proposed mechanism called Cloud Optimal Mechanism. This system makes the module to automate the choice of cloud vendor among the diverse contributions. Now going to explain the data flow diagram. The process starts with three main persons. Those are cloud user, cloud vendor and cloud brokers. First of all, cloud user and the cloud vendors have to register and log in into the process. First, cloud user have to send the resource specifications to the cloud broker. Then cloud broker receives that resource specification and forward to all cloud vendors who were logged in. The cloud vendors receives those resource specifications which are broadcast by the cloud broker. After receiving resource specifications, each and every cloud vendors checks the possibilities based on their capacity to store the files. After checking the possibilities, if they have a possibilities means they will reply the QoS parameter and cost to that resource specifications to store the files to the cloud broker. Then the cloud broker collects all the costs and parameters details from the vendor. After collecting, the mechanism going to applied by the cloud broker. The mechanism name is COPT. Based on that COPT mechanism, the cloud broker will decide the winner and the payment amount to the cloud user and the vendor. After receiving the payment details and winner details by the both cloud users and the vendor, the cloud user will pay the payment to the vendor through the cloud broker. After receiving the payment, the vendor will store that file in their storage area and receive the payment and send that stored message to the cloud user. Finally, the performance will be evaluated. Now going to show the demo of the process. This is our home page of our process. First thing, the cloud user have to log in into the process by giving the user ID, username and the password. Cloud user login successfully. This is the cloud user form. Here the cloud user have to select the resources. It's nothing but the text file. So the file path is shown here, and to view the file content we are clicking here, and to get the file details and going to get the resource details. Now the resources specifications have to send to the cloud broker. For that we have to get the cloud broker form. This is the cloud broker form. Now the cloud user going to send the resource specification to the cloud broker. The cloud broker successfully receives the cloud user specifications. Now the cloud broker have to broadcast the resource specification which we received from the cloud user. For that we have to log in the cloud vendor. This is the cloud vendor login form. Here have to give the user ID, username and the password. Now the vendor login successfully. This is the vendor form. Here have to get the resource specification which is broadcast by the cloud broker. First here going to broadcast the resources by giving the port number. Now have to give the port number and get the resources which broadcasted by the cloud broker. Then the cloud vendor have to check the possibilities based on their capacities which is shown here. Then the file can be stored. This is the possibility message. Hence we can start the further process. First we have to evaluate the QoS parameter for the resource specification which received from the cloud broker. First have to get the turnaround time and the bandwidth and the latency based on these formulas. Now have to send this parameters to the cloud broker by giving the port number. Going to send the resource specifications. Now have to receive it here in the cloud broker form. Now going to receive the QoS parameter. Successfully received the cost details sent by the cloud vendor. And now have to send the cost details to the cloud broker from the cloud vendor. Here the cost details received by the cloud broker which is sent by the vendor. Now have to log in another vendor into the process. In that form we have to enter the user ID, username and the password. Now the vendor login successfully. As we do before, like that we have to forward the details here. Now we are going to broadcast the resource specifications which is get by the cloud broker from the cloud user, and here going to get the resources. Now successfully receives. Now have to check the possibilities. Possibility is nothing but the file can be stored here. Now have to evaluate the QoS parameters for the login vendor. Now calculate the turnaround time and bandwidth and the latency based on the vendor's capacity. Then now going to send this parameters details to the cloud broker. Now have to get the cloud broker form, and here we are going to receive the QoS parameters details of the login user, and have to forward the cost detail from the cloud vendor form to cloud broker. Finally, cloud broker collects the QoS parameters list and cost list based on the resource specification which is broadcast by the cloud broker. Now going to estimate the winner and the payment. For that, first we have to get the parameters weights which we assigned by us. Successfully loaded the QoS parameters, and the QoS parameters weights are bandwidth for 0.2 and latency 0.3 and turnaround time is 0.5. Now get the vendor's cost which is sent by them. Those are the vendor's cost which we now receives. Now going to select the winner based on the winner selection mechanisms, nothing but copt. First get the parameters y and the cost details. Now going to select the winner based on the minimum of cost vendor. The winner name is shown here. Then have to estimate the payment based on this formulas, nothing but minimum of cost divided by QoS parameters weight. Then the cost is estimated with the help of J of B into the cost. Now going to estimate the payment. Now first the payment have to be forwarded to the cloud user. Now the cloud broker forwarded the payment to the cloud user. Now we have to get the cloud user payment form. Now here have to give the port number and we are receiving the payment. After that we have to forward the winner details to the cloud vendor. We have to get the cloud vendor's winner and payment form. This is forwarded by the cloud broker and going to receive by the cloud vendor. The winner details received here, and I'm going to forward the payment details. Now the payment is sent to the cloud broker and the cloud vendors. Now the cloud user have to pay the payment to the cloud vendor who is selected as a winner through cloud broker. For that, here going to send the payment to the cloud broker. Now the cloud broker have to get the payment details after this winner selection. For that, we have to get the payment form first of all. Here the cloud broker will forward the payment to the cloud vendor who is selected as a winner. Now going to get the payment details and going to forward to the winner selected vendor. Now the cloud broker forward the payment details. Now going to get the cloud vendor form. Here have to receive the payment. Now the cloud vendor successfully receives the payment who is selected as the winner. Now going to store the file. This is the file storing form. Here first of all we have to get the file path, then we can view the file content. Now going to store the file in the cloud vendor storage area successfully. Then we are going to reply the resource utilization details to the cloud broker directly by giving a port number. Now we reply the resource utilization details to the cloud user. For that, here giving the port number and this is the resource utilization message. It's nothing but file is successfully stored. Now going to get the performance evaluation for a cloud user. It's nothing but the time consumption for a cloud user to get the resource utilization process. Then we are going to get the graph of cloud brokers, nothing but the storage space consumption area for whole process. Then we are going to get the graph of cloud vendors, nothing but number of optimal cost vendors versus procurement cost.